to ask one question already, so.
Do you agree with taking the burden of healthcare off of employers? And if so, can you tell us exactly what your plan is to do so?
I think employer-provided healthcare is one of the cornerstones of how our healthcare functions in this country. I think most of our employers pride themselves on being able to provide healthcare. Unfortunately, small businesses, and I'm sure Katie can speak from this with experience, because those prices have gone up, I've talked to many small business owners that aren't able to provide that healthcare. I think we need to specifically look at associated health plans, which I passed in the House. I co-sponsored legislation, and it actually went through my committee, the Education and Workforce Committee, that allows small business owners, whether it's the Sun or whether it's Katie's small business, to work with local chambers of commerce to purchase healthcare insurance at a lower cost because you're pooling with other small businesses. That's something that our local chambers of commerce are very supportive of. I was pleased to see that that passed the House. I hope the Senate takes that up. That is an example of what we can be doing to ensure that small businesses are able to provide cost-effective health care that's high quality for their employees.
We have about 5 minutes to go, so 188 is up next, and on deck is 169. 169, it looks like you're up. No 169 either. 191. 167.
Oh, we have 191.
All right.
Thank you for coming on today. It's been really informative. I'm going to change my question halfway through because it is about healthcare. I think specifically to your point that businesses pride themselves in being able to provide healthcare. I think large businesses do it because they have to. Because in order to compete in the workplace for talent, they have to provide very strong healthcare. But yet the problem for them is a bigger portion of their expense, which, and I would think that if they could have someone else have it be put into the government or have the government fund it, rather than them having to have the burden, it makes them more competitive globally. I think that gets back to the question of, would you in any way support a Medicaid or Medicare for all if there was a buy-in from both individuals and businesses for that?
I wouldn't support Medicare for all. I think the cost would increase tremendously, and I've been concerned. We work on Medicare cases pretty frequently in this district, and there are issues in terms of access and who provides coverage. And I also look to the experiences working with the VA. The VA has massive, massive problems in the quality of care and the backlog. But as you're moving towards a more government-run program, that's what concerns me. Is I don't think the VA. The reason why I use that example is I don't think they have provided adequate care, and I think we've seen too many issues. I mean, I hear about it on a weekly basis from constituents. The other concern I would have, I think we should incentivize businesses to provide health care. And we do that by allowing them to expense. But I think that's an important investment that businesses, businesses make in their workforce. And I do disagree. I think most business owners, particularly in this district, care deeply about their employees and really do pride themselves, whether they're a big business or a small business, in providing high quality benefits to their employees, who are like family in many of these companies. Thanks for the question.
167 is up, and on deck is 189. No 167, 189.
Jake was Brian, I'm passing. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for coming.
171. We're going to get through all these tickets before the hour is over, and we've got about a minute to go. 97. And on deck will be 166.
Thank you for coming to Moriah. Really appreciate it. My name is Michelle Zolkowitz, and I'm from Elizabethtown. I have to read because I'm very emotional about this. Yes. During the Holocaust, the U.S. denied thousands of people entering into this country. Citizens believed immigrants would compete for jobs. We are facing a similar belief in the White House. However, without immigrants, our country and our economy suffers. our young farmers who have been mentioned, who have come here and started new businesses in Essex County, and our tourism depends on immigrants. They provide the labor. So why don't you support DACA? And why are you not supporting anti-immigration policy?
Immigrants are very important to this country. We're a country built on immigrants, and particularly for our agricultural sector of our economy, those ag workers are incredibly important to keep our farms in business, particularly our dairy farms and our seasonal workers at our apple farms. I actually do support legislative bipartisan bill when it comes to DACA. I think we absolutely need to address this legislatively as a Congress. My concern of how the Obama administration went about it was they did it administratively, which if you want to make lasting change in this country, you need to pass it through Congress. Our job is to legislate. That's not the administration.
What have you done to get that done?
So I've signed on to numerous bills. One is introduced by Carlos Curbelo, who is a member of Congress out of Florida. Another one is a bipartisan bill with Will Hurd and Pete Aguilar, Democrat Republican, Texas and California, that try to fix our broken immigration system. We are a country with rule of law, and I think that's important. I do think we need to tackle our broken immigration system, not just address our DACA recipients, which to give you numbers, that's about 100 individuals in this district. Even though that's a small number, think about their community members, think about their family members that are impacted. So I fully support a legislative solution on DACA, and I think we should move it in a bipartisan basis. Broader than that, we need to fix other problems with our immigration system. Having a year-round dairy visa program, having a seasonal visa program for our apple orchards, making sure that H-2A is modernized and we don't have a backlog.
How do you support immigration into this country when the White House is denying immigrants coming in? Some people are experience genocide.
Well, certainly genocide, there is no excuse for genocide. That is a war crime. In terms of immigration, those individuals need to follow the law. Our job as Congress people is to make sure that we pass legislative solutions. We work on immigration cases pretty frequently in this district. So when individuals have visa problems, they can come to my office and we're able to resolve them when appropriate and when the pertinent information is provided. We work on that all the time.
But if we have policies coming from the White House to deny people even the right to apply, what are you doing about it?
So I'm on, as I said, 2 bills. We need to move them through the legislative process and put them on the president's desk.
I'm afraid we've reached our 1 hour limit.
We can keep going. 5 more questions.
5 more questions, okay. 166 is up. Do we have 166? Just raise your hand to stand. 197. 197. 173. There we go. And on deck will be 168.
Hi, my name is Mark Sissons, and I'm from Queensbury, New York. Chemical engineer. I work in the paper industry since 1981. Travel all over the country. I love this part of the state, and I love the area that we live in. But we have a little problem I want to ask you about.
Sure.
I teach my kids fiscal responsibility, and I see in your brochure that you put as one of your items here, fighting for fiscal responsibility by balancing the budget and protecting and preserving entitlements, which I assume to be Medicare, Social Security, so on and so forth, veterans benefits. It is reckless. It's easy, but it's reckless to pass a really large tax cut bill and a really large spending bill. Those are easy. You're giving away presents. I'm referring to you as in general. It's you're giving. It's Christmas. It's 2 Christmases. We're giving everybody lots of money. We're saying you should like your tax cut. We're giving people lots of money, by spending them. What I want to ask you is there any way that we can really get a bipartisan effort to get this under control? I have 3 children. I have 2 grandchildren who are in the Queensbury School District who would love to have you come and visit them. You should talk to them. They're both young ladies and they're both marvelous people. But we're passing a debt down to them. And it concerns me greatly. And I don't know how anybody in good stead can give a tax cut. We're borrowing the money for that tax cut. We don't have that money. You say we cut taxes. Well, we had to borrow the money to cut those taxes. If you look at the numbers, we're over $1 trillion going to be in deficit spending, which is going to bring our overall debt up over $20 billion. And this started, well, I'm not going to go, I just want, my question to you is, how can we address this? How can we help you address this? What can we do to make this happen? To have Washington be more responsible in the way that they tax us and the way they spend the money. You can tax me all you want if you're not running up debt. And if you're giving me something for my money. But where you're borrowing money to give it back to me, I'm paying for it both ways. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. I think your concerns reach across all political affiliations, very fiscal conservatives, Republicans, Democrats, independents. We need to be more fiscally responsible in Washington. And there are a couple of ways that I think we need to do that. First, I wanted to point out, to address your question, I did vote no on the tax bill. I am concerned that it wasn't fully paid for. The omnibus bill was not perfect. That was the spending bill you referenced. And we are in an environment right now where to pass a spending bill, you need 60 votes in the Senate, i.e. it has to be significantly bipartisan. It was not perfect. I thought it was more important to have a compromise and fund programs for the district. In the long term, the way we fix the budget process is to move to 2-year budgeting instead of the appropriations fight we have year after year. I have voted in support of budgets that balance within 10 years. In the next couple of months, we're likely to vote on a balanced budget amendment. I will vote in support of that as well. I think we absolutely need to be more responsible, and we need to have states that are more responsible. New York State has an incredibly bloated budget, and they push these mandates onto the counties. Ask any county legislator, any town supervisor how problematic that is in terms of the mandates they face. I can see heads nodding from some of our local electeds. At the federal level, it is not perfect. We need to do better. Again, I voted no on the tax bill. We need to fix the appropriations and budgeting process, moving to 2 years, and also addressing programs that should sunset. So if a program is working in the 1980s, when I was born, it's okay to modernize the program for something that works in the 21st century. I think we can look at each and every agency to find savings. Are there duplicative programs? How can we more effectively use technology to make sure that they're effective, efficient, and functioning more appropriately for where we are as a society today? But I share your concerns too. Believe me, we need to do better when it comes to fiscal responsibility. And a balanced budget amendment, you'll be seeing that in the next couple of months in the House.
Next up is 168.
Hi.
Let me just go on deck is 98.
Lance Clark from Hague. Let's go back to the question of climate change, please. You've spoken about this a bit before, but the 900-pound gorilla in the room about climate change is a connection between climate change and our national security. The huge threat that climate change is bringing to our national security, which most of us don't know much about.
And I think am I remembering you correctly? You and I talked about this. You wrote an op-ed on it in the Post-Star. You wrote an op-ed. Okay, I remember.
Serious op-ed.
Yep.
As you know, this involves two main kinds of threats. One is a threat about our weakening our military capacity, such as the rising sea waters in Norfolk, Virginia, which are putting dry docks underwater. And the other type is making the world a more dangerous place by increasing the number and scale of violent conflicts and having conflicts with potential to draw our military in, including people who have in Fort Drum. So I have two questions for you. In fact, I would say I appreciate that you really are engaged on this issue, and particularly the climate change and security aspect. So I'd ask you two questions. One, can you say a bit more about your actions on this aspect of climate change, that is climate security? In particular, speaking about your work on the National Defense Authorization Act in the Climate Solutions Caucus. And secondly, coming back to the 900-pound gorilla, how can you speak out more in this district so people are more aware about this particular aspect, security and climate change?
Thanks for the question. I think you do a great job advocating on this issue. Oftentimes people don't come at the climate change issue from a national security perspective, so I applaud you for raising the profile of why that's important. I've been very engaged in this work on the House Armed Services Committee. One example where I think that we've shown real leadership is when the president, in terms of their national security strategy, got rid of climate change as one of the important factors, one of the important provisions when it comes to our overall strategy. I partnered with the ranking member, I'm head of the Emerging Threats Subcommittee, and we wrote a letter to the president on why that was not responsible and why we need to include climate change as we address national security challenges around the world. Specifically, in the National Defense Authorization Act, there have been really bad amendments that have been proposed to not allow, for example, renewable energy sources to be utilized, not allow contracts to work with renewable energy companies with military installations. That is important at Fort Drum. We have a biomass facility, which is 100% renewable, 100% sustainable, and it's secure for the post. I was able to defeat the amendment, which would have stopped DoD's ability to go into contracts with renewable energy sources. That's important. Oftentimes what we pass is just as important when we block bad ideas, and that was done on a bipartisan basis. We will have the NDAA markup this year, and I will look for opportunities to highlight why climate change has an impact on our national security.
Next is 98,
Yes.
and on deck will be 172.
Elise, one of the hot button issues is in the news right now is the president and his position of the trade deficit. Can you tell us what your position on the tariffs are?
Thank you, Dorinda, for the question. Good to see you. I've had an opportunity to meet with you many, many times. In terms of his position on tariffs, I am concerned about going into a trade war. I'm concerned about how that's going to impact our agricultural businesses. I do think we need to have a very targeted approach when it comes to dealing with China. But I think we need to do so and not lead into this trade war mentality. So I'm concerned about the tariffs that China has slapped back and us slapping back at them. How long is this going to go on? And really that's going to affect job creators in this district, and that's going to affect consumers who are going to see their prices go up. I know your business is part of the agricultural sector. What I think we need to do is look at bilateral trade agreements in the Asia Pacific to increase our exports and to counter China's economic leadership in that region. I think we need to modernize trade agreements too, to make sure that we're dealing with a level playing field and bringing up other countries' labor standards, environmental practices, up to where ours are, so it's truly a level playing field. I think the president can be much more targeted. If he wants to target China's unfair trade practices, you can do that, but don't have these blanket tariffs which impact small businesses. Another example is the paper and pulp product tariffs. That affects every newspaper in our district in terms of their cost of doing business and potentially increasing prices on consumers, although the sun is free.
It's free. Trust me, the paper cost is taking off. We've got 2 more increases coming.
Yeah, thanks for the question.
172 is up, and on deck for our last question will be 192.
I'm Bernie Beebe, I'm the local farmer here in the town of Moriah. Thank you for having this. I'm not angry at anything. America's a great country. If this was Venezuela, this wouldn't be happening. My issues are securing the border. That's been addressed. Debt and deficit, I think, is the largest one here. And the assault on the Second Amendment, which protects the first. I respectfully disagree with Mr. Johnson on assault weapons. You can't define it. You can put an AR or my 30-06 semi. They both do the same thing. Raising the age to 21 will do nothing. Think of a young girl that's living by herself in her apartment, 100 pounds. What is she to do with somebody 250 kicks the door down? She can't have a gun?
I agree.
She can't have a gun. What, she's going to call the police? It's too late. Sorry, but it's too late. And I also have to respectfully disagree with climate change. We as a human being are not bigger or better or greater than the sun, which controls our climate. It's just a money ploy. People want money for research, and that's all it is. I'm sorry.
Thanks for the comments. At these events, you can hear lots of different perspectives on different issues. I agree with you in terms of the importance of protecting Second Amendment rights. We do need to tackle our debt and deficit in this country. Thanks for coming today, and thanks for your role for many, many years at the fire department.
Our last question will come from number 192.
I'm Brett Thompson. I'm the chairman for the Republican Committee in Town of Moriah. I want to thank Elise for coming here today and everybody else for coming. But recently, the military, like the veterans, my father was in a veterans home, or the veterans VA in Albany. And when they released him after about a month and a half, bring him back to Ticonderoga to a nursing home, and all the costs went over onto him. Nothing came from the VA at all. His health care, I had to keep up on his secondary insurance, and a lot of that wasn't covered. So we had to go through alternate ways of helping. The VA, nothing. I would just like to see a continuation of taking care of the veteran after he comes home.
Absolutely. I want to follow up with you, Maddie, my district director. There's Maddie in the back. Please reach out to her. Let's see what we can do in terms of, oftentimes we can look retroactively at those bills and advocate for VA funding. We do that all the time for veterans or caretakers, spouses or children of veterans in this district. So I want to help you and see what we can do. But you bring up the broader point and why we need to reform the VA system. When you're talking about Ty to Albany, that's a lot of driving, and that's a lot of driving in the wintertime, particularly if you are an elderly veteran. We need to have more flexibility for vets to seek care in their region, and that ought to be covered by the VA. Think about the number of hospitals that you pass going down the Northway just to get to Albany. That you should have the flexibility to seek care there and to go to, as I said, physicians that your father chooses. So I want to help you with your VA case. I know everybody in this room knows veterans. This is a district that has more veterans than any other congressional district in New York State. We do individual VA cases all of the time. We've been able to claim over $2.5 million, issues similar to what you laid out today. So I want to be there to advocate for you. My staff does a tremendous job at this. They've really developed an expertise. So I hope you'll connect with Maddie, and we'll see what we can do.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Congresswoman Stefanik, I'd like to thank you for being here with us today. It was an honor for you to visit our community. Always welcome back. Anytime you want to come, we're ready for you. Thank you for representing us so well. Thank you. And thank you all for your questions, your behavior, everything.